Hello, vinyl community. It's been a little while. Doodah Dave coming at you. Little steal your face. How's everybody doing? Almost the end of February, almost March. Okay, today what we got on hand is 1974, 50 years ago. I've been wanting to do this video for a while. I haven't done a video for a while, since the holidays, since my holiday CD video. So let's get at it. I got a stack here. Charlie Daniels Band, Fire on the Mountain, on Capricorn Records out of Macon, Georgia. The great Charlie Daniels, who was on Bob Dylan albums back in the 60s. He was on 66's Blonde on Blonde, started his own band in the 70s. This was, I think, his fourth or fifth album with his band. Really blew it away. Had Dickie Betts on this. He has a live cut on here from 74. Came out in 74. He's got his Tennessee flag there. It's really, really great. South's going to do it again. He name checks Dickie Betts, Richard Betts with that old red guitar and talks about the Skinner Boys, all the people. Great Flournoy Holmes, who did the inside artwork for Eat a Peach for Southern Rock fans, did this cover. Really, really great. Charlie Daniels Band, Fire on the Mountain. Of course, it has Long-Haired Country Boy also, and South's Gonna Do It Again. It does not have Devil Went Down to Georgia. I kind of thought it did, but it's a really, really good album nonetheless. Caballo Diablo also. Okay. Cannot take a long time or we will be here. Mr. Bob Marley came out with the Wailers, Bob Marley and the Wailers, Naughty Dread on the Island label. I should show the labels. I didn't show the label on, hopefully, well, this isn't the pink labels on Island, but it's pretty cool, and it's a good pressing. This has a No Woman, No Cry that I really like. You know, people always talk about Exodus, and of course Legend sold a gazillion copies. All the best of. I am including comps in this, but and best ofs, which are comps, obviously compilations, but I'm doing only albums that were released in 1974. And it has Naughty Dread, and what's the other big hit? No one. Lively Up Yourself was the other big. I like Rebel Music too on here. It's great. The bass is just incredible on here. Aston Family Man, Barrett. There's Bob doing it up. All right. Moving right along. Jefferson's, these are in no particular order. Jefferson Starship. All 1974 releases, all on vinyl. Some are live, some are studio. I'll tell you which are which. Jefferson Starships, really their second album. The first album, Blows Against the Empire, 1970, was really a Paul Kantner, Planet Earth Orchestra album, but this was the first to feature Craig Chiquito. I love this album. I really was excited when I got this on vinyl. I had this on vinyl, didn't I? Yes, this wasn't the one I was getting back on vinyl. I can't remember what I've had on vinyl and what I've tried to get back on vinyl. I think I got it on. I was trying to get it on CD because I have things in multiple. But it's got Grace Slick. It has Paul Kantner. It has Papa John Creech on there. There's the band. It has David Freiberg from Quicksilver. I just picked up an old album of theirs with Nicky Hopkins. It's got Craig Chiquito. I meant John Barbata, who was one of the many drummers. I don't know who had more drummers, Jefferson Airplane or Weather Report. Pete Sears, great keyboard player, played with a lot of people. English guy. For some reason, the San Francisco bands and the English keyboard players like Nicky Hopkins and Pete Sears went together. Pete Sears played with Rod Stewart as well, Paul Kantner, and the great Marty Balin. So you had a lot of airplane, good, I'd say 3/4 of the airplane. Really, it was the airplane, the Starship really was the airplane without Jack and Yorma. Speaking of Jack and Yorma, that will help me. What do we used to say in the show business? Qua, fantastic album that came out in 74. I couldn't figure out why I had a 73 and a 72, 75 Hot Tuna albums. I just picked up Yellow Fever and I have America's Choice, all on vinyl. This is the great Qua. There's a pretty clean-cut looking Yorma for the mid-70s, early 70s, 74, and Tom Hobson, who sings vocals on a bunch. It's got the great Police Dog Blues. It's got Genesis. It's got I'll Be All Right. It's got Another Man Done Gone. The blues on here, it's pretty much all acoustic, produced by his longtime buddy, Jack Cassidy. So you get the tuna feel for it, but there's really not much bass. It's just Hobson and Yorma. Yorma sings on Song for the North Star. Great. Flying Clouds. It's fantastic. Really, really good. Qua. Great. Margarita Kokkonen did the fantastic artwork on Grunt Records, and one of the RCA subsidiaries. Now, I said I would do Compilations, greatest hits. I did Elton's because I have great love for Elton. I don't have a lot of English bands in here. I do have some. I picked this up from my friend Steve. Thank you, Steve. And it has Your Song, Daniel, Honky Cat, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, Rocket Man, Benny and the Jets, Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me, Border Song, and Crocodile Rock. That's about as good a greatest hits package as you can get on MCA. Yeah, in the States he was on MCA. And there's Elton with the hat. So it's good pressing. Elton, not much to say about Elton. I think Elton, Benny Taupin really was the magic, what Robert Hunter was, and the Lennon and McCartney team, and Lennon and Jagger, the lyrics were so important, and the guys, like we'll get to James Taylor in a minute, that were able to write their own songs, and people like Linda Ronstadt and Bonnie Raitt that did a lot of covers. The words were just so important, at least to me, to these albums. Fantastic. If I had to pick one album from 1974, I would probably pick this album, because I feel like this album... Okay, let me back up. 1974 was a pivotal year. Rock was pivoting, okay? Glam, Rush, Kiss, all of that hadn't started. Their first albums were just about to launch, I believe, in that year, I read. Stadium Rock hadn't happened yet. You weren't going to get Paul McCartney, the Wings, till 76. Wings had been on the run, but they didn't really tour it and sell at stadiums until 76 yet. So Linda, she was finishing up, I just read this, her Capitol contract. She'd already moved to Asylum, moving with David Geffen, and had so many great albums on Asylum. But this album is just magnificent. I mean, Faithless Love, You're No Good, it kicks off. James Taylor on You Can Close Your Eyes. Her band on this, I mean, she left the Eagles because that was her backing band, as many people know. And she had this band, Kenny Edwards on bass, Russell Kunkel on a lot of the drums. Just fantastic. Peter Asher producing, of Beatles fame. And speaking of Paul McCartney, so Emmylou Harris on background vocals, just When Will I Be Loved? Every song on here. Dave Hassinger, who was an engineer on the first Grateful Dead album. Bernie Grunman did the mastering. I mean, this is... I can't say enough good things. John David Souther, who was kind of a... like a Bernie Taupin, Robert Hunter for the Eagles. This is just an all-star of things to come. And of course, the Garrigle Sisters' "Heart Like a Wheel," which was where she got the title cut. And "Willin'," this is the first time I heard Little Feat. Little Feat were not that big until Dixie Chicken. Were barely getting airplay. So this is the first time that they really broke out, and it was fantastic. Sneaky Pete from the Burrito Brothers on the pedal steel, and she does a fantastic job. So Linda, thank you on Capitol, her swan song on Capitol, and thank you to Peter Asher, Andrew Gold, David Lindley, she thanks, Dave Hassinger, Val Garay, and Lowell George. That's the people she thanks on the Capitol label, Red Capitol label. Okay, moving right along. Next we have we have a couple of live albums, one from Joni Mitchell and in 1974, and one from Van Morrison. So those are some pretty big names in the music business. They were not, of course, as big as they were singer-songwriters that had hits in 1974 as the music icons, legends that they are now. And Bob Dylan also had Before the Flood, but we're going to do his studio album. We'll get to that too. So this is Miles of Isles. She was really touring out of the success of Help Me, I'm Falling in Love. Court and Spark. Thank you, Court and Spark, because I'm having a block, a senior moment, because I don't have Court and Spark on vinyl. I have a lot of Joni on vinyl. Not a lot. I'm getting there. Great picture of her in concert. And she put 2 new albums live on this, Love or Money and Jericho, that are just fantastic. The backing band, which was pretty revolutionary for a rocker to do, she picked the LA Express. So this is a long standing of the crossover between rock and jazz in 1974. Don't forget, jazz rock and all that was before Blow by Blow. Mahavishnu was out before Return to Forever had really broken. So she was on the cutting edge of all that. And then the next tour, the next live album that she did, The Shadows and Light, that was really is the live album that everybody talks about, is the one with Pat Metheny and Jaco Pastorius. But this is the one. This is the money shot right here. Joni Mitchell, Miles of Isles, LA Express. And everything is on here. I mean, it's a greatest hits. You Turn Me On, I'm a Radio, Big Yellow Taxi, Rainy Night House, Woodstock, Cactus Tree, Cold Blue Steel, Blue. I like Shoot Me, but I like this better than Blue. I mean, Blue is stripped down. You got the, dulcimer and the acoustic guitar and the piano. Blue is a gorgeous, incredible, beautiful album, but I like it fleshed out with the LA Express with John Guerin and Tom Scott and the guys. All right, enough about Joni. This was on Geffen's label, The Asylum that I mentioned, where, of course, now Geffen, a little side note on Geffen, you guys probably know this if you watch the Geffen documentary, Stony End, Laura Nero was his golden girl, and she had passed away, unfortunately, from cancer, so he filled his stable with Joni Mitchell and Linda Ronstadt. Not too shabby, as they say. This is an album that doesn't get a lot of love. We're going back to the South again. We're jumping around from LA. We're going to go up north in a little while. We went across the pond for, I told you they didn't have a lot of English albums. This is Cool Inside here, taken from the Underground in Atlanta. I love the artwork on this. This was Win, Lose, and Draw. This was the follow-up to Brothers and Sisters. And I think Brothers and Sisters knocked it out of the park after the trifecta of Live at the Fillmore East, the Allman Brothers, of course, Live at the Fillmore East, Eat a Peach, and Brothers and Sisters. And people really wrote this album off. Give this album a listen. Muddy Waters, Can't Lose What You Never Had. Betts does a beautiful instrumental, High Falls, one of his best. He used to do it with his own band. He used to open with that. Louisiana Lou and 3-Card Monty John, which is a great country song. Sweet Mama, Billy Joe Shaver song. Yeah, it's odds and ends. Yeah, win, lose, or draw. It's kind of a Johnny Cash type. Greg kind of phoning it in a little bit. Is it the best album the Allmans ever did? No, absolutely not. But it has Chuck Leavell, it has Richard Betts, it has Lamar Williams, who I love. I think one of the best bass players they ever had. Him and Alan Woody. And I love O'Teal, and I love the original. Who I'm blanking on, Dwayne Allman, and you know who I mean, Dwayne Allman's buddy. All right, so win, lose, or draw. Moving on. Tales of the Great Rum Runner. This is the lyricist. I was talking about lyricists, and when a lyricist does an album, lyricists don't usually do albums, but Robert Hunter did in 1974. And this is great because everybody in the Grateful Dead community and in the San Francisco community came out for this, and it's got some cool stuff on it. Is it the greatest album ever? No. Cool label with ship on it. Cool cover. I just don't think people talk enough about Robert Hunter. I got 3 of his albums: Tiger Rose, this, and Jack of Roses. I love them all. I love his writing. I love his interpretation, especially in the studio. More studio than live, definitely. And Jerry's, of course, all over this. Enough said for the Deadheads. Probably if you're a Deadhead, you have this. If you don't, you should check it out. One of the standouts, critic favorite, Jackson Browne. My favorite Jackson Browne album, probably his darkest, but when you go to Jackson Browne, you kind of go to dark. Late for the Sky, Road in the Sky, For a Dancer, Walking Slow. I think this holds together as a concept album. He's got the Magritte type of cover on it with the vintage car. This was right around the time, I believe, that his wife was either very depressed or had committed suicide, I think. So he was writing, Jackson was always having relationship issues. It's all the way through. You got Lindley on here. You've got Doug Haywood, Larry Zach, and Jay Winding on piano. Just a very, very tight band. Again, J.D. Souther. Just fantastic, fantastic album. Really, really sounds great. On, the Geffen Mafia there. It's on that Asylum label again. Late for the Sky. Okay, 74. Moving right along. Back to San Francisco from LA. This was called Compliments. It just says Garcia. It was all covers after he did his first solo album and got a hefty sum from Warner Brothers. He did this, and it's great. It's got Motown. It's got Van Morrison that we talked about earlier. It's got Irving Berlin, John Kahn produced. It's got Peter Rowan's Mississippi Moon from C-Train. It's got Dr. John. It's got some Rolling Stones. It's just a really, really fun covers album. Back in 74, people weren't really doing covers albums. So the idea of Linda Ronstadt and Garcia doing other people's songs was more novel than it became later on. Of course, big singers like the Tony Bennett's, the Peggy Lee's, the Sinatras, etc. They of course did other people's songs, and Streisand. They weren't really writers, the pop artists. A great Victor Roscoe did and this was on Round Records. These albums, all of them, all the Grateful Dead records were all on their own label on Round Records, which they had started in 73 with Wake of the Flood. Round Records again. Don't need to say too much about this one. I'm sure everybody knows this one. If you don't, get it. one of the greatest studio Grateful Dead albums, Scarlet Begonias, Pride of Cucamonga, U.S. Blues. Everything is great on here. Ship of Fools. They, Loose Lucy, they, did almost everything. China Doll did everything on here live. They did it great live. They were at their peak when they did this. It's a very spacey album. And if you can see in the corner, I have the poster of it. Can you see it over there? Yeah, of both sides. Which they sent to me free, actually. Good old Grateful Dead. They were good that way. So, Live from the Mars Hotel, again, on Round Records. They kind of blue labels back then. Very plain. The two Lesh cuts are very, very good. Unbroken Chain and Pride of Cucamonga. I love Pride of Cucamonga, especially. Check that out. Good country. Okay, Eagles on the Border. My favorite Eagles album. No, not Hotel California. No, not Eagles. No, not Eagles Hits Greatest One. Eagles Hits Greatest Two. Not even The Long Road Out of Eden. It is this one. This is a rocker. It smokes. You've got Don Felder on here, and Bernie Leadon. I think that's why I like it so much, because you've got two like dynamite lead guitars along with Glenn and Don propelling things, and the Randy Meisner vocals. James Dean, Already Gone, Midnight Flyer, My Man, Good Day in Hell, Bill Seismic, Working the Board. It was on Ubiquitous Asylum. You see why Geffen was... He was a free man in Paris. He was a busy man with all these artists. But he was putting out great music. So I'm going to end it there. I think I'm going to do a part 1 and a part 2. I'm going to take a break to go walk my dog and post this. And then we'll come back with part 2. On the Border, Henley and Fry. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. Great artwork. See you soon, vinyl community.